من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. اللهم لعن ولا ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له وعلى ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله، اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين. You've all heard the story of the boy and his father and the donkey, ajallakumullah. And they walked into a village, and the villagers, upon seeing them, said, "Look at this man, this foolish man and his son. They walk while they have a beast to ride." So upon entering the next village, they both rode upon the donkey. And they entered the second village, and the people said, "Look at this evil man and his son, and how much weight they have put on the back of the donkey." So upon entering the third village, this time the father rode while the son walked. And the people said, "Look at this mean father, as he rides a donkey while his son walks." Upon entering the fourth village, they did the opposite. This time the son would ride and the father would walk. And they would say, "Look at this insolent son that rides while his father walks." So what was the moral of the story? Is regardless of what you do, there will be people that disapprove of you. So why is it we seek others' approval? Why is it we use social media platforms in order to seek other people's approvals? Why is it I'm concerned about the amount of likes that I have? Sometimes you'll see someone on their Instagram account, they like everything they see. And sometimes they'll like something that's even non-religious. And you tell him, "How do you like something like this?" He says, "Oh, if you don't like, this person will get upset because he's liked something of mine." So it's all a competition between people to what? Gain approval. Get the thumbs up for people to like them. And it's so effective that if you even see celebrities and personalities that you think these people are untouchable. Sometimes when you see an actor or you see a sports star, you think these people are out of reach, but they get affected by the comments that people make on social media. It affects them when people talk. Thus, they also seek approval. The first question I have is, should I care about what people think? Should I be concerned about what others think about me? Now the answer to this is yes and no. In one instance, the sixth holy Imam, Al-Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, says in narration, he says, "Rahimallah abdan," he says, "Rahimallah abdan istajarra mawaddat an-nas ila nafsih." So the Imam is saying about people or telling people to actually want the love of others towards themselves. What does this mean? This does not mean that I should pander towards other people. Like I should do things that would gain other people's approval. It means for me to be a decent human being. like in public, when I deal with people, by being polite, by being courteous, by not being a menace around people in this sense. But does that mean by being real and being myself, does that mean that I should be shameless? No. Be honest, have integrity. This is what's required. So yes, I should worry about what people think about me with this regard. But to gain their approval, you need to think about this. You know, when it comes to gaining people's approval, sometimes we worry about what... Have you ever noticed people always worry about what the West thinks? You think about this. They worry whenever you talk to them about the Majalis of Al Hussein, and especially when it comes to the sha'a'ir of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, a lot of people are concerned about what the Gharb thinks. What does the Gharb... Why do I care what they think? Let them go clean up their red light districts and then come and tell us about what we're doing. Why should I be concerned with what they think? In fact, when God says, وَلَن تَرْضَ عَنْكَ الْيَهُودِ وَلَن نَصَارَ حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُمْ, that they will not ever accept you or approve of you until you follow their ways. In fact, even when you do, take a look at the Muslims around the world that sold their soul to Satan, the ones that sold their soul to the devil and followed the other people, even still they're not, or they haven't gained that approval from the Westerner and the Western perspective. Now, if I truly love someone, I should gain their approval. If someone I want to be with, or someone that I have the highest regard for, this is a type of person that I want the approval of. See, even as a child, we always seek the approval of our parents. Even if you notice when you're children, people that have children, when they play around you, your child always says, Baba, Baba, watch me. I'm about to... If you notice, if you are out with your child, they want to swim, they want to jump in the water, you've got to watch them. They're going to do the same jump over and over again, but they want you to watch them. They want you to see them do it. They want your approval. That fact that they seek your approval, they prefer your approval over anything. You know, sometimes when people ask you about having children, and they say, I'd like to have a big family, but I don't think I can afford a big family. It's not about money. A child, if you ask the child, would you rather your father get you a nice gift? Honestly, ask the children, would you rather the latest game on the PlayStation, or would you rather if your dad played with you on the PlayStation? They prefer them to be next to them. They prefer them to be next to them and play with them and acknowledge that they're there. This is what the child prefers. They want this approval of the parent. When they do something good, they want their parents to recognize this. Even when a child does something evil, they want their parents' approval. If you take a look at the biggest thing that the Sodomites, if you take a look at the LGBTs, the biggest thing that they walk around with, and what's the biggest thing that they push? Have you ever noticed? It's a 5-letter word. Pride. Why do you think they want pride? Why is it always about pride? They write gay pride. Why? Because within them they're ashamed. They are so ashamed of what they're doing, they want that acceptance. And that's why they push that word. More than any other word, pride. They want the world. Why is it they have to let you know? You know, when you meet someone, when do you meet someone at work and he comes up and says, hello, I'm a heterosexual? No one says that. But you get the others that want to push it down your throat, that they bat for the other team. They want to let you know about that. Why? Because they want you to approve of it. They want you to approve of them. And they'll push it as much as they can, that agenda for you to approve of them. Even if you notice atheists. If you don't believe in God, you have no religion, why is it you make it your task to chase the religious and bring them down? Because they seek the approval of God. This is weird. It's an oxymoron. The atheist seeks the approval of God, like an emo. Have you seen those people that hold a grudge against their parents? And they always hate their dad, but they want the approval of their dad. The atheist dislikes and hates God, but he wants the approval of God. I want to be accepted as someone that doesn't believe. And that's why they chase the religious, because they see the religious as representatives of God. They see them in this position, so they harass them that I don't believe in God. Now we'll let you know about it, and they push it. Why? Because they want the approval. Because technically, if you really didn't believe in God, why would you even waste your time? Think about it. Why do we try and convert someone to Islam? Because if they become Muslims, we get a share in the reward. Whatever they do good, we get. So what does the atheist get when he makes someone into an atheist? Where's the ajr? Where's the sadaqah al-jariyah that he gets from this? What do they gain from making someone into an atheist? What is the gain at all, if any gain? There isn't. They just wish to seek recognition and approval for what they do. The problem when it comes to seeking approval, our lens and our vision and our perception, we have made so small and linked it to this world. And that's why we seek approval of what's in this world. Because our ma'rifah and our understanding of what Allah is and how far greater God is so small. When I can increase this knowledge of God, then I seek what the bigger picture is. Now, if I can understand who my Creator is, if you take a look at when we want to visit any of the Imam alayhum as-salam, what does it say when it comes to visiting them? There's a lot of people that go in and out of the shrine. You've been to the shrine of Abu Abdullah Al Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala. Is it only 12ers, Ithna Ashari Shia that visit the shrine? No, there are other people. There are all kinds of people that visit the shrine. And this is why when you read where the narrations where the Imam says, for example, Manzarani, and then they mention Arifan bihaqqi. There's an emphasis on this, that the person that visits me has to know who they are visiting. They have to know my position so they know how to deal with me. They know what my position is. They know what I can do for them and what my status is. They must know that I'm oppressed. Not just visit as if they're walking into a masjid and walking past. They have to know the status and the position. Then I can understand that big regret that will happen on the Day of Judgment. Why people will have that big regret. And I don't want to be of those that has that hasra on the Day of Judgment for not having the knowledge of this. When I see God's status and God's position, when I have the ma'rifah of Allah Azza wa Jal, then I know only His approval is what I need. Nothing else. One man came up to the 8th Holy Imam, Al-Imam Ali ibn Musa Rada, salawatullahi wa salamu alayh. And he said to the Imam, he was weeping. He said that people say many bad things about me that are untrue. Taban, I'm paraphrasing the narration. And then the Imam says to him, does it not suffice you, or is it not enough for you that Ana radin ank, I approve of you, I am pleased with you? If the Imam is pleased with you, then God is pleased with you. And that is sufficient. I don't need anyone else to approve of me. In a narration where Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, in this narration he says, إن استطعت أن لا تسخط ربك برضا أحد من خلقه فافعل. If you are able, as he mentions in this, not to anger your Lord in order to please others, then do so. He says, فَإِنَّ. This, just to give you context of this, this is the letter, this is a part of the letter that Amir al-Mu'mineen writes to Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr radwanullahi alayh, taman ala Muhammad, when he sends him to where? To Masr, to be in charge of the government there. He says, if you, he mentions this to him, he says, in istatat an la, firstly, not to anger your God, in order to please people. Because you know when someone's given a position of governance, that's the first thing they sell, God. The second they sit on the kursi. Have you ever noticed politicians? The second they get there, when they first campaigning, have you noticed how they at the railway station and they're out there, they shake your hand, how you going? Then after that, once they're in the seat, you never see them again. Once they get the chair, you don't see them anymore. They disappear. You want to call them, you want something. When they're campaigning, they pretend to be human beings and they shake your hand. In the Arab world, they just never leave the palace. That's it. They sit in there and they never come out again. That's it. Becomes theirs for life. So he says to him, Salawatullah alayhi, says to, in the letter, that if you cannot mention this, anger God while you please others, then do so. Why? He says, فَإِنَّ فِي اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ خَلَفًا مِّن غَيْرِهِ. This is something that you should fear. That Allah Azza wa Jal basically can substitute another for you. You know when we read in the dua in Shahr Ramadan al-Mubarak, وَلَا تَسْتَبْدِلْ بِي غَيْرِي. This is something you have to actually reflect upon. You know when you read the verse in Surah Al-Mu'minun where it says الَّذِينَ يَرِثُونَ الْفِرْدَوْسِ. Have you ever read this verse and thought about it? الَّذِينَ يَرِثُونَ الْفِرْدَوْسِ. Those that inherit. You know earth. What's earth? When you bequeath something, when you inherit something. When something is given to you from someone else, that's inheritance. Isn't that right? So what does a person inherit in paradise? What did I get in paradise from someone else? Every creation has a house in paradise and a house or a place, a pit in the fire of hell. The ones that miss out on their house in paradise, that house or that mansion or that palace is given to someone else. This is what we're talking about, the inheritance here. So Allah Azza wa Jal, Allahu as-Samad, Allah is needless. As Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, when she's doing in her, when she mentions in Al-Khutbah al-Fadakiyya, when she mentions for her right, she says, وَإِن كَفَرْتُ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. And this is from a verse in the Quran, that if you all disobey and you all disbelieve, everyone on the earth, Allah is ghani, Allah is needless, Hamid, Allah is praised, He doesn't need your praise. So there he says that Allah can substitute other for you. Another one can take your place. But then he says, وَلَيْسَ فِي شَيْءٍ سِوَاهُ خَلَفٌ مِّنْ. But you can't substitute other than God. You can't go turn to another deity. If I want something in the dunya, I can ask one person. He doesn't help me, I can ask a second person. But when I need mercy, there's Allah. And if Allah does not approve of me, if Allah does not forgive me, where else can I go? That's why do I want anyone else's approval except my Creator? In fact, Allah has honored us. Allah has dignified us by placing our affairs in His hands. Alhamdulillah alladhi wakalani ilayh فأكرمني ولم يكلني إلى الناس فيهينوني. As Imam Ali ibn Al Hussein alayhi salam says, that Allah Azza wa Jal has dignified you. Allah has honored you by placing your affairs and everything you need in His hands. He has not abased you. He has not put you in a place to be dishonored by putting your affairs in people's hands. Could you imagine you needed a wasta to get into paradise? You know, could you imagine you're at the sirat, zabat li iyaha. Please, you know, can you fix it? And he tells you, go to this maktab over there and get it fixed. You know? We call it in Lebanese shamshata. They take you from one place to another. You move from one place to another and they treat you in such a way that every person, or you masahjuh, as they say in the old days, that I have to kiss up to this person and kiss up to that person. It doesn't work like that. You're dignified. Allah has honored you. So why do I want approval of others when I should be seeking the approval of Allah Azza wa Jal? So how do I acquire the approval of Allah? The first holy Imam, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, says, Ridha Allah subhanahu maqroonun bita'atih. That Allah's approval or Allah's pleasure or Allah's acceptance is with Allah's obedience. You want Allah to approve of you, then obey Allah. This is the problem with Iblis. Iblis worshipped Allah for 6,000 years. When Allah Azza wa Jal commanded Iblis to prostrate to Adam, why do you think this story is mentioned all the time? Why do you think Allah brings it out, this story, and lets people remember Iblis? Then if you read in Nahj al-Balagha, you see Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam mention the fall of Iblis. Why is this story so important? Because he failed to obey God. And no matter how much he prayed, don't we say in the poem, وَمَنْ لَمْ يُوَالِ فِي الْبَرِيَّةِ حَيْدَرَ سَيَّانًا عَنْدَ اللَّهِ صَلَّى أَمْزَانًا. Why do we say that? Who doesn't accept Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Why is it so important? Why is Amir al-Mu'mineen the Furqan? Why is he the criterion for entering paradise? Why? Yani, sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If Allah Azza wa Jal told us to obey the chandelier, no matter what Allah tells you to do, you must do it. Not only this, Allah Azza wa Jal chose the best of creation and He told us to obey them. So those that reject God as the creator have been rejected by God. Those that reject the messenger of God, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, have rejected God. Those that reject the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Because the Prophet says, إن الله اختارني وإياك واصطفاني وإياك واختارني للنبوة واختارك للإمامة فمن أنكر إمامتك فقد أنكر نبوتي. Whoever, Allah chose me, He chose you, He appointed me as the Prophet, He appointed you for imamah. Whoever rejects your imamat rejects my prophethood and thus rejects God. So it's all about obeying Allah Azza wa Jal. In fact, Amir al-Mu'mineen says that Allah will not be tricked into placing people into paradise. لا يخضع الله عن جنته ولا تنال مرضاته على مرضاته إلا بطاعته. That you cannot gain the approval of Allah except through obeying Allah. It's about obeying Allah. So how would I know if Allah approves of me? That's the question. You know, sometimes you meet someone. Could you imagine you had an instrument that you could point and know the answer to a question before you asked it? If I asked this girl to marry me, would she say yes? And then I could say yep, she says yes, then I'll go talk, then I have the courage to talk. If I asked for this, would I get it? If I asked for that, and I'd know the pre-approval. Imagine I was able to work this out. Allah Azza wa Jal makes it no secret. It's not a lottery. The hereafter is not a lottery. There's no one sitting on the day of judgment not knowing where they're going in terms of the believers. The believer knows from now. بل الإنسان على نفسه بصيرة. Allah Azza wa Jal lets you know yourself. ولو ألقى معاذيره. Even if someone has excuses, you and I know ourselves. You know from all your actions, where are you? If I pick up the Quran, I'll look, who are the people going to paradise? Who are the people going to the fire of hell? You read. It's not something that's hidden. It's not a secret. There's not some secret path to enter. The path is clear and it's apparent. So what is the litmus test for me to know if Allah Azza wa Jal accepts me? For me to know if Allah Azza wa Jal approves of me? Once again, we go to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. He says, Alamatu ridha Allah subhanahu an al-abd. The sign of knowing that Allah approves of the servant. He says, Ridahu bima qada bihi subhanahu lahu wa alayh. That ridha, for you to be pleased with what Allah has given you. In other words, to be content with what Allah has written for you. You know, when you read Dua Abi Hamza, what's the end of it? وَرَضِّنِي مِنَ الْعَيْشِ بِمَا قَسَمْتَ لِي يَا أَرْحَمَ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Make me be pleased and content with what you have given me. If I'm meant to be single, then so be it. If I'm meant to be married in a miserable marriage, then so be it. If I'm meant not to have children, then so be it. If I'm meant to be rich, then so be it. If I'm meant to be poor, then so be it. If I lose whatever I lose, then so be it. This is what the whole message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is. Ridhan bi ridhaq. La ma'bud siwa. This is what the Imam said. I'm pleased with what you are pleased with. I approve with what you approve of. Ridha Allah, ridana ahl al-bayt. Isn't that what he said? That he approves of whatever God gives him. If this is what Allah wants, then so be it. I will accept what God wants for me and nothing else. Even if it means that I have to go to Karbala. And even if it means while I'm in Karbala, all my companions will be killed before my eyes. And even if it means that my family will be killed, my most beloved will be killed before me, then I am pleased. Why? Because Allah approves of this. If the women and children in my family are to be taken prisoner from city to city, then I approve of this. And Imam did not just go in this direction without taking the precautions, yet he went with taking the precautions where he actually took the approval of the people of Kufa before he went there. He took the acceptance of the people of Kufa before he went in that direction. He sent a representative like Muslim ibn Aqil alayhi salam towards Kufa to see the people, and the people had given allegiance, and he had sent for the Imam that the people of Kufa had accepted, and he went in this direction. Some people might think to themselves that the Imam was unable to achieve the goals, or other of the Imams were unable to achieve their goals and what they set out for because they would not use unorthodox methods. If you notice, when people look at politics and political movements today, they say, well, you can't achieve this without doing that. Well, it's not about what you achieve. It's not about how many things you attain. It's about how you attain them. The ends never justifies the means. The means is as important as the ends. I need to do what is correct from the beginning, seeking approval of what Allah wants along the path. I set my goal and I move in that direction of my goal. The goal that I have set for myself. But along the way, I don't cut corners. I follow what Allah Azza wa Jal has written for me. I follow what Allah Azza wa Jal has placed in my path, and I approve and accept, and I'm pleased regardless of what it is. And I'd never ever put the approval of his creation above his, because everything is in his hands. Even when you pray. Now sometimes you have an appointment, you're praying, and you think, I've got to get my prayers out of the way to do something or get there. You know, at that point when you're praying and you're rushing, the narration says that God says to his angels, look at my servant. He rushes his prayers in order to get something. Does he not know what he wants is in my hands? It's in my hands. It's not in anyone else's hands. Where's he running off to? This is why when you say, when it comes to attaining your rizq, your sustenance, when people ask, how do I get sustenance? You told them, wake up in the morning and pray Salat al-Subh on time, and stay awake till the shuruq, till sunrise. This acquires sustenance more than the work that you're going to do that day. This is the prerequisite for everything. And thus, this is where I see that Allah Azza wa Jal has everything in his hands. And this is the whole concept of the mission of the Imam. To know that Allah Azza wa Jal is paramount, he's the foremost, and he's the one whose approval we must seek. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us of those he approves of, and we gain his approval in this world and the hereafter. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.